That night was quiet, too quiet, even for the dark world of a low-level criminal. Inside a small, cramped tattoo parlor, the neon lights flickered like a dying breath. The gangsters laughed loudly, drunk with money and power. They thought they were the rulers of darkness, untouchable people who could trample on anyone. However, darkness always has a hierarchy. One of them received a black envelope, a thin object that looked ordinary, but that was precisely a sign of something that should not be taken lightly. The envelope was opened. It contained only one small item, a handful of needles covered in blood. They knew whoever sent it was death incarnate. Then, darkness. The wind whistled. A sharp whine pierced the air. A head fell without a scream. Blood spurted wildly, splattering the walls like a painting of hell. The other gangsters panicked. They drew their weapons. They fired blindly into the darkness. But darkness can never be shot. One by one, bodies were cut down, as if the devil's hand was slashing mercilessly. Until finally, he appeared. A mysterious figure stood in the middle of a sea of blood. His body was clad in black. His gaze was cold. Only one word came to mind: the Hunter of Hunters. However, those who died that night were only a small shadow of the blood that would be shed. Many years ago, in a remote place, hidden away was the Ozunu clan, home to the world's most deadly assassins. There, a small child was cast out into a nameless world. That child was little Raizo. He was given no love. He was given only one thing: pain.
This is the power.
Training began before sunrise. His small bones were forced to move in endless pain. If he fell, he had to get up or die. The whip became his teacher. Pain became his friend. The other students were not friends. They were rivals. If one was weak, another would die. However, in the midst of that hell, there was a glimmer of light. A sweet girl named Kiriko. She taught Raizo something a ninja should never possess: feelings, empathy, the desire for freedom, sharing dreams of a world beyond the clan's walls. But darkness does not like light. The next training session was even more brutal. The master, Ozunu, taught the art of killing. Sharp-bladed chains, weapons that could dance and tear flesh apart in a single motion. Raizo learned quickly, too quickly even, blow after blow, wound after wound, shaping him into a fearless being. And every time his blood dripped onto the ground, Ozunu smiled proudly. Pain is what keeps you alive. Without pain, you are nothing. But inside Raizo, there was a war he was hiding. His body obeyed the clan, but his heart began to rebel. Especially when Kiriko began whispering something more dangerous than death: hope. The hope that freedom might exist for them, and hope was the greatest sin for the Ozunu clan. That night, the sky was pitch black. Kiriko, with trembling hands but full of determination, asked Raizo to do the thing most forbidden by the clan: run away, leave behind their lives as monsters, seek freedom as humans. She believed the world outside must be better than the hell they lived in. But before that step could be taken, black shadows descended from the roof. As fast as lightning, without a sound, without warning, Kiriko was dragged into the center of the courtyard. All the students gathered around, and Raizo was forced to watch. Ozunu raised his sword. A traitor must die. With one swift slash, Kiriko's body fell. His blood soaked the ground that had once been his home. Since that night, Raizo swore, if the world only understood the language of death, Then he would respond in kind. In the midst of heavy rain, Rizzo stood silently on the roof of a tall building, his past beginning to crawl out of the darkness. Bitter memories dragged him back. Punishment for traitors was given without mercy. Rizzo slowly opened his eyes. His face was expressionless again, but anger burned behind that gaze. Rizzo is no longer their slave. He is their greatest threat. Moving to another location, a quiet room. The computer is on. Europol agent Mika is confronted with a shocking fact. This ninja network is not a myth. They are involved in the assassination of political figures, the disappearance of activists and journalists, torture outside the law of any country, all carried out by a single shadow clan that operates outside the law. Mika traces the evidence. Mysterious financial trails from victim A. A red circle appears on the screen. When he returned home, the lights in his neighborhood suddenly went out. Mika gasped in fear, because that was a sign that darkness was coming, and on top of that there was a mysterious envelope containing black sand, which made him even more afraid. And sure enough. But before death could claim him, Rizzo appeared like lightning from the darkness. He slashed the attacking ninja, whose body hit the glass and shattered into pieces. Mika trembled, between fear and relief. Rizzo looked at Mika coldly, but there was a hint of empathy in his eyes, because he knew Mika was fighting the nightmare that had once destroyed his life. For the first time, Rizzo decided to work with someone, and this is where the counterattack began. Night in Berlin, too quiet for a big city, and that kind of quiet is always a bad sign. Mika and Rizzo were moved to a Europol safe house, a heavily guarded building. Not an ideal place to hide, but perhaps enough to delay death for a few hours. Rizzo stood near the window staring at the dark sky. He knew the enemy would come. They always did. Mika, still in shock from the previous attack, tried to convince herself that she was in a safe place. In another room, heavily armed agents all appeared normal, until one of the cameras flickered. The image was distorted by a black shadow. Then the camera went dark. The door suddenly split open. Darkness rushed in. Rizzo moved faster than lightning. The other agents fired wildly into every dark corner. Rizzo slammed the back door and pulled Mika out of the building. As they broke through the dark night, the safe house had turned into a house of death. Rizzo moved faster than lightning. The kusarigama chains whipped through the air. Frantically, Rizzo parried, slashed, and destroyed every attack. But there were too many enemies. The enemy's power is becoming increasingly terrifying, and this hunt has just entered a more brutal phase. After the attack, Mika and the special team took him to a secure facility. The room was brightly lit and heavily guarded. However, they agreed to hand Rizzo over to the clan as a sign of surrender. In fact, it was a clever trap. A microchip tracker had been implanted in Rizzo's body. The night air was bitterly cold. But for Rizzo, the pain overpowered everything. Yet every drop of blood seemed to awaken his old nightmares, memories of deadly training. Memories of his body being pushed beyond human limits. Memories of every mistake being punished with whips and knives. Raizo stared at him, cold, full of vengeance. His Majesty will die by my hand. In front of Ozunu, Raizo was taken to the basement. The guards tied him to a wooden cross. Ozunu stood nearby, staring coldly. He wanted one thing, to destroy Raizo's body, but not to give him a quick death. Torture techniques are not merely painful. At the bottom of his suffering, Raizo forged a plan, not to die, but to take revenge. Suddenly, the night of the attack arrives. The Europol team springs into action. Small explosions, smoke, dim lights. The ninjas scatter. The concert of violence begins. Raizo slips into the darkness, ready to finish it all. Mika leads the diversion. In the inner chamber, Raizo faced the strongest guard, his old training partner, now a fanatic. Their fight was brutal, a choreography of blood and steel. Attack after attack, they stood firm, until finally... Raizo subdued his enemy. When Raizo entered the central hall, he saw Ozunu standing beneath a circle of fire. Ozunu smiled, calm, confident in his plan. In the center of the circle, sparks fly. Swords meet shadows. The battle is not only physical, it is a test of spirit. When darkness is about to prevail, there is always light to illuminate. Ozunu unleashes a forbidden technique, an explosion of energy that reveals the past. Kiriko's memories appear in a flash. No mercy this time. The darkness must be destroyed. That was what was on Raizo's mind. Raizo used every wound as strength. He slashed, held, then slashed again. His movements were like a storm. Raizo struck at the heart, slashing Ozunu's stomach with a single movement filled with vengeance and old wounds. Ozunu fell, his body collapsing before the raging fire. In the darkness, some choose to hate, others choose to protect. Raizo seeks his revenge, while Mika finds unexpected courage. This victory comes at a high price, paid for with blood and silence. If this story moves you, watch the original film to experience every moment of action and tragedy. Don't forget to subscribe for more movie storylines.